Mystery Bros. Mystery Bros.
Mystery Bros. Mystery Bros.
Mystery Bros.
Mystery Bros.
Mystery Bros.
All right, so we got another quarantine episode of Mystery Bros here.
Yeah, like I said before, we had to make a decision with the whole team here to decide if we wanted to go
all
forward.
of our employees, we had to make sure everyone was safe and comfortable with coming in.
Yeah.
I said yes.
Yeah, we
And,
think we
you
had
know,
like the other 250 people on our crew, 250.
Yeah.
They were
all of our other employees are
pretty on
working
board.
off site right now,
Yeah.
so we're glad.
We
that
like
they're
to thank
safe.
you for them. Thank you guys for working. Big shout out.
Yeah, we don't have employees. It's just me and Arel here. So, but yeah, so we got another quarantine episode of Mystery Bros coming at you here. 'Cause we know you're probably just bored sitting inside looking for shit to do. I'm going crazy just sitting inside all fucking day. I watched all of Tiger King yesterday. Super fucking crazy. You guys need to check that out if you haven't.
I've been playing FIFA all day.
Yeah, I've been basically just playing Call of Duty and Apex, watching shit on TV, and then just like working on music.
I think the whole world has probably
constantly.
gotten better at video games during this time period.
I bet.
So video gamers, you got a challenge. Like we've
Lot
been
of
all
video
been
games,
playing.
yeah.
We've been playing a lot. So
Yeah,
throw
all you-
something at us.
All you professional video gamers out there, I'm coming for you now, okay? Now, after this quarantine, I'm about to be a professional video gamer, and I'm about to make millions of dollars like all you fucking kids. Anyway, so today we got a really interesting, real juicy topic. It's probably just going to be a solo topic. We don't have to really add anything else in here, I don't think, because
No.
we got a lot of juice on this one. But it's the Roswell incident.
Smoking gun, I think, is the biggest. I think everybody has heard Roswell some point in their life.
Everybody's at least heard about it before, about the incident.
Yeah.
And it's definitely just one of the most like compelling pieces of evidence for alien life and aliens visiting Earth.
Well, I
You know
think
what mean?
like the most compelling evidence is because most of these people are high level people in the military.
Yeah,
who didn't
high-level
say
military
anything
officers.
during their time in the military. They came out after when they were
Yes.
retired.
Yes, and it's just a lot of evidence to point for this one. So it's really interesting. But so we'll get into that, and then maybe a mini conspiracy at the end or a quickie at the end if we have time. But I doubt it. I think we're gonna have a lot of stuff on this. So we'll see though. But so Roswell. Obviously, Roswell is a town in New Mexico. I almost said Mexico. A town in New Mexico. And it's kind of out in the middle of fucking nowhere, right? Just kind of out in the desert.
Yeah, it's
right?
like a small town. If like nothing ever happened in Roswell, like no one would ever hear about it.
Yeah, exactly. If this hadn't happened right next to Roswell, no one would ever be talking about Roswell. So, but yeah, this was a while ago. This was back in 1947. Mm-hmm. Now, interesting thing about 1947. 1947, the year itself had more UFO sightings or UFO like incidences than any year prior to that, up to like 50 years or something. like that.
Especially in New Mexico.
Yeah, especially in that area.
What's important
Which is
to note, since like we talked about the Foo Fighters before, that was pretty much the first real incident of like UFOs, and then after that kind of skyrocketed.
The Foo Fighters from World War II? Okay. Yeah, I remember talking about those. That was the first, really?
That was really the first
I
sighting.
mean, what about Christopher Columbus back in the day when...
I'm talking about like that's like the first like a lot from like military pilots.
I got you.
That kind of.
So yeah, like I said, June was big... 1947 was a big year for UFOs just in general, like a lot of sightings, which makes this pretty interesting. So then July 2nd was the actual crash. It was in a field just outside of Roswell, pretty much, right?
Yes.
And 2 days later, on July 4th, is when Mac Brazel goes to the site to go kind of just check it out, see what happened, right?
So he was doing like a sheep run, and the sheep wouldn't go near this like place. They wouldn't just go near
Okay.
it.
He was just a farmer, right?
Yeah. And he
Okay.
was wondering why the sheep wouldn't move there. They would just like stop. And he saw this big debris field.
Okay, and he went to go check it out?
He went to go check it out, yeah. And he got some.
And that's when he found some stuff.
Yeah.
But we'll get into that. So then July 7th is when he goes to the sheriff.
July
right?
5th.
Really? I don't know. these ones definitely said July 7th, but whatever, different sources might say
That could be.
might be a day or so off. But either
July
way,
7th. All right, July 7th.
okay, yeah, either way. So we'll just say July 7th. He goes and he shows the sheriff the debris, and then there's a intelligence officer, Marcel, who checks out the crash site, and then he issues a press release where he states that they found a flying saucer. Right?
Correct. July 8th, they found a press release saying. So basically, what happened is they the rancher didn't know what the stuff was. Colonel Blanchard went check it out, didn't know. They came to the conclusion, plus because of the second crash site as well, that it was a UFO that crashed.
Okay, and but specifically in the paper it said flying saucer.
Flying
right?
saucer, so I meant, yeah.
Which is interesting because that's kind of the first time that they started using that. And then. Yeah, so then the next day, they, like you said, July 8th, they run the story in the local newspaper saying, and then at that point, General Ramey orders the debris to be brought to him, right, down in Texas, and he looks at it, and then he tells them, no, the debris is actually from a weather balloon, right?
Right. And they took a huge picture. That's the famous photographs.
Yes, they took the picture of them in his office looking at it, right? And it's just like a bunch of material, but
Like
we'll get
sticks,
into that.
some thin paper,
Yeah,
and some tough rubber.
we'll get into that later. So then after that, everything is recanted. Basically, they say no, it was just a weather balloon, and then Brazel actually has to come out, and Brazel says, he does another story in the paper where he explains, no, it was just rubber strips, tinfoil, a rather tough paper, and sticks.
Yeah.
Right? Interesting. And then pretty much after that, everyone was just like, oh, okay, like we get it. Yeah. Oh, darn, I guess it was just a weather balloon.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah, we get it. It was just a weather balloon, so we'll just, we'll move on. But then 1978, in comes Stanton Friedman, who was like a physicist, right? He was like a physicist, and he was kind of like a UFO researcher too. Right. Like he started to get into that, but he was a physicist. He wasn't just a psychopath. And apparently, he interviews Marcel, the intel officer Marcel, about the crash site, and Marcel says he still believes that the wreckage was not a weather balloon, right? And that pretty much opens the floodgates for all this shit, right? Friedman also interviews Brazel and Ramey and others, and he basically concludes that there was a massive cover-up, including the materials there at the scene and possibly alien bodies.
Yes,
right?
There's a good book about it. It's called Unmasking the Truth.
I've seen people talk. I've not read it, but
I've not read it either. But
yeah, I've heard it. I've heard it's really good. Got a lot of information. I might read a book about this now because this shit's really interesting. To be honest with you, I might read it. But I saw a different one that I might check out that looked interesting. But either way, there's a lot of them I'm sure that are good. But yeah, that's kind of like the story. That's kind of the backbones of the story. So we're gonna go into the theories. I mean, really, there's only two theories. There's what the government says, right?
There's more than two theories.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, as far as there's just two theories. Either it was a cover-up or it wasn't.
Yeah.
Right? And so the cover-up there's all kinds of different stories, but like the two theories basically like that it's a government cover-up for an alien crash and alien bodies, or it was actually a weather balloon. Since we're mystery bros here and we fucking love aliens and believe in all that shit, we'll go over the boring weather balloon theory first, get that shit out of the way, and then we'll drop the knowledge on you guys, all right? But anything you want to add about like the actual story itself first?
No, not really. I think
pretty...
most people at the time like actually bought the story like, oh, it's just a weather balloon.
Yeah.
And, like, people didn't think anything of it. Like,
dude, back in the 40s and the 50s, I feel like people were a lot more like. There wasn't as many like conspiracy theorists. There wasn't as many, you know what I mean? Like everyone kind of just like believed in the government, and everyone thought everything they said was
not
true.
Not that many out there people.
Yeah, everything. People weren't as because there wasn't the internet. There wasn't, you couldn't like dig deep on things. It was tougher. So it was like you kind of had to believe like what the paper and what the news and stuff was telling you and what the government was saying.
And keep in mind, the military reported that it was like a UFO to the paper. Like,
At first, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what is interesting. That's what makes this. That's honestly, that's probably the only reason that we even know about this at all, is because the very first story came out saying that it was a flying saucer from a press release from the
military.
intel officer,
Yeah.
Marcel. If that would have never happened, if Marcel would have spoken with the other guys first and they would have just been like, no, this is a blah, 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 it would have originally come out as just a weather balloon crash, and I bet you Friedman or no one would have even looked into it at all. So it's really interesting. But yeah, so we'll go over the one theory that it was that it wasn't a cover up. It was just a weather balloon crash.
Yeah.
First, to get that out of the way. So apparently in 1994, the Army released some statements where they admit that there was a massive cover up with Roswell, but they say that they were covering up a top secret weather balloon project called Project Mogul.
Yeah.
A little silly.
So it wasn't just a balloon. It was like
it wasn't just
cool
a weather balloon. It was some like super top secret project where apparently like it did sound crazy. Like apparently the balloons were over like 650 feet long. And they had all kinds of like sensory equipment and stuff on them, which could be mistaken as extraterrestrial, is what they were saying. Now, know that they had a lot of time to come up with this. They came out with this in 1994, so it's like they could have been thinking about this for a long time. But according to them, yeah, it was just like apparently the way that they used like sonar underwater to like detect bombs and detect submarines and stuff like that, they were trying to kind of do the same thing with the sky. And they were like putting like huge like weather balloons with all these like sensory equipment up there and trying to turn those into like sensory devices basically. And then and yeah, that's basically what they say was found. Then in 1997, they released statements saying that the Army would do these tests where they would use like test dummy humans or whatever, and they would drop human like dummies, and apparently it happened over Roswell around the time, and that could have been mistaken for the bodies. But little wrench in their plan there was no record of ever doing any of these tests with the dummies until the 1950s. So why would that have been part of, why would that have anything to do with
and they're much taller than what all these witnesses say.
Definitely not the same description as what people said that they saw there. But that's basically what the government uses to uses as their defense, is that this was some crazy like top secret Project Mogul where they were using like weather balloons that had all these crazy sensory devices on them and stuff to try and to try and figure stuff out in the air like they were in the water, and then that's what crashed.
But mysteriously, a lot of papers from 1947 from that regarding that incident from October to that time have just disappeared.
Yep. All the records from the Roswell Air Base from January 1947 to October 1947
are just gone.
Are mysteriously gone, and there's no reason.
Yeah, no reason.
No reason why they were destroyed. No reason. No one knows what happened.
Yeah.
They just aren't there anymore. So, already fishy as fuck. I feel like it's just hard to believe that. You know what I mean? It's hard to believe that that's what this was. You know. And it just seems like the government's trying so hard to cover it up. You know what I mean?
And intelligent officers wouldn't know what the fucking weather balloon looks like.
Yeah, right. You're saying, intel officer Marcel, who was the guy who went and checked the crash site, you're telling me he wouldn't know that was a weather balloon?
Yeah, Blanchard, yeah.
Yeah. Like, come on.
And Mac Brazel, he even said that he's seen a crashed weather balloon before, like on his range before. So... Like, he knows what
he knows what they look like.
Yeah.
He knows what they look like.
Even if it's high-tech fancy, like, ooh, you can, like... You would have, like, a theory, at least, to what it would be. Like, if it was, like, some high-tech fancy weather balloon, you could probably, like, that's maybe, like, a weather... You wouldn't be like, what the fuck is this?
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
And we're
going to get into...
could possibly be a weather balloon.
Yeah, we're going to get into in a little bit, like, what the materials they claim to have found, and it's like you would know immediately that's not from a fucking weather balloon, man. Like, yeah, like it's really interesting. And then let me see basically the last thing I have here is that just what we said, all the records from January to October of that year from the Roswell Air Force Base have been destroyed.
Right.
And it was not indicated who or why at all. Who said this to do this or why. They're just gone.
Yep.
So that's interesting. You know, obviously that we believe that there was definitely a massive cover-up here. And they were covering up an alien crash site, basically, a UFO crash site. So I mean, total, I'm pretty sure there's like over 600 different witnesses, right?
Right.
And a lot of them are military and like high-ranking military, high-level military people.
And that's what we're performally focusing on too, are the witness accounts of these people. We're not going over like hearsay, because I'm sure there's a lot of people that like, I heard this guy, what this guy said, this guy, and it gets exaggerated.
Yeah,
so you have to watch out.
Firsthand witness accounts. There's so many, you know, there's so many firsthand witness accounts, and so many of them are high level military dudes that came out like after their service, after they were done, they're like, we got to say something about this, so they come out and say it.
And the descriptions have all been similar. Not like, why would 600 people be coordinating the same descriptions?
Yep. Yeah. First thing I wanted to quickly just talk about is the KGFL radio stuff.
Okay.
You know about that? How Frank Joyce, who worked for the KGFL radio station, like the day after when they found the debris, they interviewed Brazel. And he said that he said the material that he found was otherworldly. All right, otherworldly, and was likely a UFO. Mm-hmm. And then KGFL was contacted by the FCC and a senator from their state, and they were told not to air the interview. They weren't allowed. This was a few days later. Right.
And what's interesting is he completely changed his story 180.
Yeah.
The radio host was able to find him before the military was. Some people think that they were like sheltering him, like, all right, tell me before like they're going to talk to you.
Yeah.
So that's what the radio host kind of accused of that, but he said, no, it was just sheltering him. Just like, I wanted to get his first opinion. I didn't want him to talk to someone else.
Yeah.
Before, and he completely did a 180 once he, was detained. They said he was detained for a little bit, and after a while, he got picked up.
So with Brazel, Brazel's interesting. He's the dude who went, and he's basically the dude who went and saw the crash site first, right?
Right.
So, yeah, Brazel has an interesting story. He first came out to the paper and to everyone because the other intel officer agreed with him that it was some sort of UFO, some sort of crash site, and then he pulls a 180 a few days later. Now in this time, he basically like recanted his statement from the paper about the UFO, and then he was detained by the military. All of his family members say he was detained for a few days by the military. All right, and then after that, he was let out. He bought a brand new pickup truck.
And all of his friends said he was dirt poor.
Yeah, he was poor. He was just a rancher, all right?
Yeah.
So he gets detained by the military, changes his story, he says, oh, it was just some weather balloon. Then all of a sudden buys a brand new pickup truck and then moves to a bigger town in New Mexico and starts a business.
Yeah.
Right? So that's a little fishy
it's
there.
A little fishy.
Huh?
Right.
That's a little fishy. Like, he just happened to come across, $100,000 or something. I mean, back in the 40s, I bet to buy a pickup truck and start a business, it probably cost you at least like $50,000 to $100,000.
Definitely. So I definitely think they'll be like, here, we'll give you a little something.
Yeah, they're like, you need to go to all the papers, tell them it was bullshit, tell them it was a lie, or it was just, you didn't know what it was, and then, you'll be rewarded.
Right. I mean, so kind of what the researchers' timeline was, so what they kind of think, how it kind of sort of went down, if you believe the UFO side of it.
Okay.
When Mark Brazel found the objects, if you want to go how it feels like, it's like some tinfoil. They say they say it's very light, it's very thin.
Yeah.
If you try to curl it in a ball, it'll just go right back to its normal shape.
Yeah. Yeah, we're talking about the actual material.
Actual material, right?
Yeah, supposedly it was some sort of crazy metal with really weird properties, like you said. Like you can like crunch it up and fold it up into a ball, and then when you let go, it reforms it. It goes back to its original state. It's really strange, right?
Right.
They also said it was like almost indestructible, right? Like they hit it with like sledgehammers.
So that's what I'm about to get into. So they take it. So he takes it over to the police officer, right? And then Blanchard looks at the shape and was like, "All right, so what is this? What could it be?" They had no explanation and asked if they could get taken to the site itself, where it happened. They get to the site and they see these places all over, like filled with debris. It even like said that like there's even a part like farther down that left a huge impact crater. It looked like the sand was melted into glass. That's
so
how
hot.
like, it was hot. It was like as big as a football field. Some eyewitnesses say
The crater?
the crater, but
Oh,
that's not where
wow.
the actual. So I'm gonna get
okay.
into like what they kind of think happened. All right.
Okay.
So they both look at the site. And they call like towers around. Like, do you know if anything was flying around? Anything was going on? They're like, no. And then he's like, all right, well, let's bring this in. So he brings it in, and that's when they go to the military. That's when they go back to the air base. They're gonna start testing these materials, and they like start sledgehammering it and doing stuff to it, and they realize that
It's basically indestructible.
it's indestructible.
Wow. And that's kind of probably when they start realizing like this definitely isn't like from Earth, right? Like this is obviously
Yeah.
something strange.
And that's when they think the press release went out. Like they think
Is
they
that
have
when they
something-
called the military guy, or was the military guy with them before that when they found it?
They haven't called the military. This is
This is before the
they
military.
haven't
Okay.
they haven't called, and like this is just them looking at it, bringing the stuff back to the base, the base examining it, and that's how the first print of it got released.
Okay. The first press release.
Yeah, because
in the
like no
paper?
one, and then overnight, the story changed.
But wasn't the intel officer in agreement with them with the first story? Like he said it was something world from another planet, it was a UFO. And then they ran the story and then they like recanted everything after that, right?
Right.
Yeah, so they had the original intel officer also agreed at first that it was a UFO.
Correct. Everybody's agreed.
Yeah, everybody
It
agreed.
was not from the base itself that like changed the story. I think it was Washington who.
It was that dude from Texas, right? It was
Yeah.
that dude that, and he made them bring them the material. They looked, and then
Right.
yeah.
So there's apparently, if you go look into it, they realized at that point that there had to be like this place had to crash. There might be survivors to this thing because what they found were just skid marks, and the final place was actually where it eventually crashed and where the bodies were found. I think the reason why we know this story is because the military was not the first to get there.
Okay.
It was a bunch of it was a project engineer looking for irrigation systems. Actually, came across the first person who came across the site, and what he described and said is that he got to the crash site. The spaceship was in terrible shape, no engine, so like no engine or anything they could possibly see that like propelled the ship.
Yeah.
And you could see alien bodies laying on the ground, short, like around 3 to 4 feet, big head, kind of what you see, and like having a spacesuit on.
It was the typical alien thing, right? Like big head, big eyes, right?
Correct.
Yeah. Gray.
Yes. And then someone else collaborated with that story because there's also a bunch of archaeologists and students there as well who stumbled across it because the crash happened July 2nd. The world didn't know about it until the 8th or the 7th is when the military first had a first impact on it. So a lady in Florida on her deathbed said she was like slowly dying in Florida, and she wanted to make a statement saying like I haven't said anything about this before, but I was rock hunting a day and we saw this bright shiny object stuck on a cliff, and we went to go see it, and we saw these strange bodies not from humans, and then basically we were told when we were back to town that we should never speak about this again or your bones will be found out in the deserts.
Ooh, yeah. See, I was gonna say something like that. Apparently, in the days after, like, the military threatened a lot of locals. Apparently, a lot of locals that had either seen or not seen anything. They basically just threatened a lot of people. Basically said you need to stay quiet.
Right.
And then they also apparently they ransacked a bunch of their homes because because like you said, the crash site had been just kind of like open and like there for like 3 or 4 days, right? Mm-hmm. Before the military had any like control or was even knew about it. So they thought people might have material in their house or people may have came across it and grabbed blah, blah, blah. So they like ransacked a bunch of people's homes and then they basically like threatened the entire town. Basically it was like, you guys can't talk about this at all.
Right.
Just like you were saying, you know?
And when you said Colonel Blanchard, his son, when he saw the piece, because he was actually one of the witnesses who it was interviewed, and he said that it was definitely not weather. There were strange hieroglyphs on it, like with like a triangle square inside of a circle, and it was just strange, eerily looking. He said that there's no way that it was anything ever made on this planet.
Yeah.
So, like, if you go on to the story, the 509 bomb squad was sent out. They're going to go try to find the plane wreck, the final crash site, and so they spotted it at like in July 8th, and then they went back around, and that's when all the trucks came. They shut off all the doorways and you have to all the roadways, and you have to think, if it was just a UFO, I mean, if it was just a weather balloon, would you really be shutting off all the roadways, finding a bunch of trucks of men to scour the site?
It's a little fishy, right? It's a little fishy.
So that means that's definitely one of the things that you always have to look at, like, why are you like shutting everything off?
Yeah. And I mean, there's a lot of and like we were saying, there's so many like military people that have come out and said things like apparently there's a Colonel Hunter Penn, and apparently his foster daughter at the time said that he told her that he was tasked with enforcing an information blackout and with the focus on the little bodies. And he had he had authority to use physical force. So,
that's like
basically saying his job was to make sure that like that information did not get out.
No,
and like the main focus being on the bodies.
Right.
So, yeah.
I mean, this is definitely like one of the things that would be life changing if it was true to society.
Not only the fact that we found a UFO that crashed, but we actually have bodies, like alien bodies.
Right.
Oh man, how awesome would that be, dude? If to be a part of that, to see that. I wonder if they like took the bodies and they like, I'm sure they did, right? Like they probably took go.
I have stuff on it.
All right, go.
So I want to go say, so the 509 bomb squad. So if you believe it, one of the pilots there, Melvin Brown, was on the 409 bomb squad. On his deathbed, he said that that we saw the bodies and we actually like flew some of them to the hospital, and as well as loaded some on the trucks there. And this was a pilot on the 509. He was in 1982. Told this to his family on his deathbed. They actually saw these, and the same description: 3 feet tall, big head, looked like children, and they were put in trucks.
Damn. But he didn't say where they took them or what they did with them?
I'm gonna get it. So there's a bunch of witnesses, so I'm gonna go.
Ahead.
And then there's another person. Let me see if I can find his name. I guess just another lieutenant. He looked in the trucks as well, and he was told not to look. He was put on security.
Okay.
And he was said, well,
he was told not to look. You're gonna fucking look, right?
Yeah.
If they told me you can't look, I'd be like, I'm sneaking a peek, dude. I'm gonna look.
So he looked, and he actually came out to his wife in the 1990s after like some other people come out in the magazine. So it's like he came out to his wife and said, like, I haven't told anybody this, but I was out, wasn't supposed to see it. It was on the second crash site. There's actually a second site. And I was when the bodies were loaded up, I was told not to look, just to guard them. And he's like, they're definitely not human.
Wow.
And then let's get to the point where the coroner gets involved, and this is where the coroner comes out, Glenn Davis.
Okay, go ahead.
Glenn Davis. He was the manager of the funeral home. He was asked some strange questions about how do you keep these bodies safe, like frozen, like so like we can study them. Like, what do you recommend? What methods do you recommend? So like what do you call?
They don't decompose.
Decompose, right? So they don't decompose.
Mm-hmm.
What
if they even decompose?
Yeah,
we don't
exactly.
know anything about alien. Like, yeah, it's tough to answer that question because you're like, I don't know. This is a fucking alien. It's not a human. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, you need to do research to figure that out. What if they don't decompose, or what if they decompose just based on just from air exposure? I mean, or oxygen. You know what I mean? Like, they're aliens. Their planet could be, their atmosphere could be different.
Right.
Anyway, sorry. Continue.
No. You're totally right, and this is where it gets really interesting because when the coroner comes out, like, you know, he has something to say about it.
Yeah.
And they were asking for small funerals, like for children, like if you have any
Like
graves,
caskets
for children's size. So that also collaborates with the story. So like it's interesting how all these like collaborate. As well.
So he worked at what, a morgue in the area or something?
Yeah, he worked at the morgue, and he got the
Wow.
call from the military to bring small coffins.
Wow.
There and ask methods to preserve.
You think the military would like, you know what I mean? They would figure out a way. They wouldn't have to go ask like the morgue for a coffin or something. You think they could come up with something? But yeah, that's crazy. But they didn't talk about any sort of experiments or anything they did. I'm sure no one's going to talk about that.
Oh,
right?
it gets juicy.
Okay, go.
So, Dr. Johnson was a pathologist.
Mm-hmm.
He actually came out and said he was the one, spoke out, says he was the one who did the bodies, examined the bodies at Roswell, at the hospital. If I kind
Is it confirmed that he was a military doctor?
So this is the thing. They have records of him in phone books as a pathologist for these hospitals.
Mm-hmm.
His records are basically erased. You call any hospital, they've never heard of him, even though they have records of him working and titles of him as a pathologist in
Who has those
1952.
records?
The phone book.
In the phone book?
Where they list all the people. And they have people, eyewitnesses said like they used to work with him. But all the doctors, all the hospitals said they've never heard of him. He's never worked. He's basically been erased.
So we got a Bob Lazar situation here, huh?
What he describes, also the thing that's been released, or what he said. What do you do when you do an examination? What's that called?
What do you? Oh, like
With
an
a report-
autopsy?
An autopsy, right?
Mm-hmm.
Even during the Freedom of Information Act, they've been trying to find if this autopsy. They can't.
Yeah, that's buried real deep, I'm sure.
So what he describes is that these beings had no earlobes, a mouth as a slit, no digestive trail, no muscles.
Wow.
They were very small. They had they had definitely something that was like a heart pump in the blood. Because one of them one of them was still alive. And
one was alive?
So that's maybe we should have said that one was alive. That he claims that there were 4 bodies, 3 of them did die. One was alive. And they're doing experimental shit on this one.
Wow.
And this is where the coroner comes back in, Glenn Davis.
Okay.
He was actually at the emergency room the next day for his hand problem.
Dennis or Davis? Because you said Dennis before, I think.
Glenn Dennis. Sorry,
Okay,
Glenn
okay,
Dennis.
cool, okay.
Dennis Mariani.
Oh, Dennis.
So Glenn Dennis was actually at the hospital. His also the girl that he's dating there was a nurse. So they were soon about to get married and stuff. She was at the hospital there. She was working there at the military hospital as a nurse.
Okay.
So he comes out of the emergency room. He sees these huge trucks full of stuff. People secure around him. He goes and sees if he can find Judy, right, this girl, and she smiles. She's happy to see him. He says, "You got to get out of here. No one can see you here." And so he goes, leaves, and he says to the police officer outside, or the officer guarding the truck, says, "I heard you got a crash." And then he literally says, to another guy, like, "Can you get this guy out of here as fast as you can?" Like, just told him to get the fuck, like, can someone get this guy out as fast as you can?
Because he said, "I think there was a crash."
Yeah, I heard there's a crash.
Oh,
Yeah.
interesting.
So the next day, he meets up with Judy, the girl that he was maybe gonna marry.
Judy's dead. No, I'm kidding. Go ahead.
Oh well.
Oh, is she really? She's actually dead?
I'll get
Continue, go.
We'll get into it, and then he asked, like, "Why are you so mortified?" Look, like, she wouldn't eat. Like, they met up for lunch. She wouldn't, like, touch her food, and she said, like, "I saw 2 doctors working on something that was not human. That was not." He mentioned the doctor's name and another doctor, and he had to just help him. There was just one military official, like, standing there, like, trying to hear everything. And she then got transferred out of that military base for an assignment short term with some of the squadron members of the 501, and they actually died in a plane crash. Like the sergeant of the 501.
How soon?
Like after, like probably like
way later,
like a month later.
Oh, like only a month later,
Yeah,
they all died.
transferred, yeah.
Ooh, interesting, dude.
So that's
what would you listen real quick?
Yeah.
Wow, dude, that would be so life changing. Like, if you were just working, like she was working as a nurse in a military hospital, right?
Yeah.
And just out of nowhere, you see these doctors working on aliens, dude. How crazy is that?
Yeah.
Like, that would change your life, dude. Like, I feel like I would immediately, like, devote my life to, like, finding aliens, you know what I mean? Or, like, convincing the world that there's aliens or something.
So are you saying if you were, like, an assistant to a doctor and just one day you saw, like, an alien body, like, ship in, you're just, like...
Or would I not say anything about it but try and learn as much as I... You know what I mean? Like...
Yeah.
I feel like the actual way to go is to work with the military, but just be good. Just be a good boy. Be secret. Don't tell anybody. Just be a good boy and just continue, and you get to keep working on it, type of thing. You know,
Yeah.
That'd be fucking crazy. Like if Bob Lazar would have just not fucked up and not done his, like, he could still, you know what I mean? You could still be working on that. Like, all the other people that were working on that project that never said anything, they probably got to stay there for years and years and learn as much as possible. You know what I mean? So I think I might just, like, keep my mouth shut, at least until I quit and retired. You know what I mean? But yeah, that's just fucking crazy, dude. They got to see actual alien bodies, man. And one was still alive.
One was still alive, and they were examining the one that was still alive.
I wish he told us more about it. All he said was that they just have, like, eyes and a mouth and a heart, and that's...
Huh? Yeah.
That's all they figured out?
I mean, no, you can, like, there's a whole report.
Okay.
You can go, like, watch the documentary. It's uncovering the truth.
Okay.
And then they interviewed someone else, Poppy Henderson. Poppy.
I feel like I remember seeing that name.
He came out also to his... So he's dead now, but he came out to his wife. His wife's telling the story of him. Saying that he flew the craft to Dayton, Ohio. So he actually had the craft. He flew it to Dayton, Ohio. No engine. He says to this day he wants to know how it flew.
He flew it himself?
No, like, transported the craft.
Okay. Whew.
Transported the craft
to.
Yeah, he just, like, did a little
He
button,
just hopped in.
little 2-minute button press. 5 minutes later, Dayton, Ohio.
He just hopped in, cruising Dayton. Why Dayton? Was there, like,
I don't
a base
know.
there that?
Probably, yeah, it was a military base. He said he took it to.
Let's go there. Dayton's only like 3 or 4 hours from here. Let's fucking go.
So those are the main focused. If you look at the very credible interviewers, so those were the very credible people that were in that time. Their titles were named. What they were doing were like, they had a good background. Most of these people are military. There's over 200 different accounts.
Yeah, there's so many accounts.
Yes. So I wanted to focus on the ones that were more the most reliable.
I have a few more.
Go ahead.
Not necessarily, like, firsthand, like they saw aliens, but this is, like, definitely, like, some stuff that's pretty juicy. So, So yeah, apparently there was a public information officer for the Roswell base. His name is Lieutenant Walter Hott. He left a file, all right, in his like room or something like that, and it said to be opened after his death. Okay, in the file, he claims that the pictures that the military released after in the paper that they claimed were pictures from that dude's office, I forget his name, were that when they said it was just a weather balloon, that those pictures were fake, those were staged.
Yeah.
They went in the office, they like took materials from a weather balloon and set it up and then made it look like that's what they were looking at.
Right.
Made it seem like that was the materials when really that was all bullshit. And he said that was completely fake. And he was, like I said, he was the public information officer for the Roswell Air Base, which is where they did all this stuff.
Right.
So, yeah, he had a file that said to be opened after death, and in the file it claimed that there was basically a cover-up. They bullshitted those pictures.
No, I heard that too, and
Yeah.
apparently got it in the morning. The debris was shipped to him in the morning.
Yeah.
And they came out in the afternoon with the press conference. If it was just a weather balloon, why wouldn't you just announce it right then and there when you got like, you see at 8 o'clock, you announce, all right, this is obviously one of our Project Milk weather balloons. Let's just get this out of the way. I'll just announce it right now.
Yeah,
why would
right.
you wait?
Wouldn't all those people? Yeah, all
Yeah.
those people would know that this was some sort of weather balloon or something.
Yeah.
And yeah, that, and then also, there's Ben. I think it's Gomez or Games maybe Ben Games. Yeah, we'll say Games. But Gomez sounds like a real better name. I don't know. I have shitty handwriting. We'll go with so Ben Gomez, who he was the pilot for Major General Lawrence Craigie, all right, who was like he was the Major General who worked at the Air Force Base where the material and the bodies were first transported to.
Mm-hmm.
And so Ben Gomez, he's the pilot, so he basically flies this guy around. Like his job is to just fly Major General Lawrence Craigie around and basically just, he takes him wherever he needs to go because he's a fucking Major General, so he's got places to be. So that was his job. So basically he says he flew Craigie to Roswell to the crash site. All right, he flew him there. The general looked around. He stayed for a couple hours. Then he flew General Craigie immediately to Washington, D.C. to meet with the president, President Truman. All right, so they went straight from the crash site, did not even stop. They went straight from the crash site to Washington, D.C. to talk to the president. All right, then obviously a few months later, Craigie assumes the position of Chief Director of Research and Development for the military, and he opens up the very first project that he works on is called Project Sign, which is the first official investigation by the military into UFOs by the Air Force. So that's a pretty interesting coincidence, right? He flies the general to the crash site. They're there for a couple hours. Flies him immediately to the president.
Right.
To talk to him. Like what else could he be talking about? Like, President, we crashed a weather balloon in Roswell. Just wanted to let you know. Just had to fly here and meet with you face to face. Tell you that there was a weather balloon crash.
Or maybe we're just like, right? Mr. President, can you believe this UFO shit? Like, it was a weather balloon. Like, they're just like freaking out.
They're just silly. And then just happens to gets a brand new position, Chief Director of Research and Development. So it's like, I've heard that there's a lot of projects that came out of that where they tried to back engineer a lot of this stuff, like the metal.
We don't know. I mean, maybe Bob Lazar worked on these ships.
Who knows? And then, and then it's just interesting that his very first project that he opens is Project Sign, which is the first official investigation into UFOs by the Air Force.
Right.
Right? That all just sounds like a big coincidence, right? I mean, it's crazy. It's crazy. And then, I just a little, there's just so much. You have anything else about it?
You were going descriptions. I did leave out one part about these alien descriptions. They had suction cups on their fingertips, so they had some suctions to they could stick.
Interesting. That's really cool.
Yeah.
God, dude, I want to see an alien, man. Ah. It's crazy, dude. It's such a juicy. It's almost like hard for you to believe the government at this one. Like it's almost there's so many people that have come out, so many military officials, so many people have come out and said like this was a cover up, this was aliens,
And they're all collaborating together. Like,
yeah,
they're all,
that's the thing. All the stories, like all the witness accounts of the bodies are all exactly the same. 4 feet, 3 to 4
Yeah.
feet tall, big head,
yeah.
big eyes. You know what I mean? Man, that's so crazy that one of them was still alive. Did it speak? I wonder. Like, oh man, I want.
That's all we have. We have the doctor's testimony said, and that he did an autopsy report, and they've tried to find it. Freedom of Information Act release it. The government says it doesn't exist.
Yeah, they're not releasing that. No chance they're gonna release that.
Yeah, they're not gonna be like, oh yeah. Oh yeah, the alien autopsy. Yeah, we'll get that for you.
Yeah, sure. We'll just pop that out for you real quick. Here, go ahead, take a look. No, there's no way they're gonna release that.
Poor alien man. Like, could you imagine crashing on like
Yeah,
a foreign
and then he
world
just
and
gets,
just like aliens just
analyzed
like,
and experimented on and stuff, man. Like,
I'd probably like want to shoot myself before like any other like species. I wouldn't want to get. I would be like a test dummy.
yeah, you wouldn't want that, but I mean, that's crazy, man.
Do you think like the people had like a heart? Like they're just like, all right, let's just fucking see what this is made out of.
Dude, I wonder if they just like chopped them open, dude.
Yeah,
I
I wonder like if they like cared, or they're just like, yeah, whatever.
Dude, I feel like if I was one of the people doing that autopsy, I would for sure chop them up, take a look. You know, I would open them up, see what's.
Would you kill them?
One of the dead ones. You know, I would like start looking like one of the, I wouldn't kill the one that was alive.
Would you experiment on the one that was alive?
I don't know. I mean, I don't know. Did it die like soon? Like, no one knows, huh?
I don't know. But I also think about like you have to think about all the military people that come out. They're all saying that they saw something. They like it's not just one military person coming out saying like claiming all this stuff.
Yeah.
They're all saying like they saw something.
Yeah.
Why would they all be coming out if they didn't?
Yeah, it's hard. If it was a hoax, like if people were just trying to like be famous or by saying stuff, like I feel like there would be very different stories. You know what I mean? But like all the stories corroborate each other. All the stories, you know, makes like they work together. So it's like, man, it's crazy, dude. So the second crash site is where they had like.
Yeah,
where they found the craft and the aliens.
Right. So what they expected kind of like bounced off. It was probably
going really fast,
a rainstorm
right?
that night, right? July 2nd was a rainstorm.
Okay.
So I don't know how it affects the alien craft or like what it did to the alien craft,
Yeah.
but they're basically saying that it like ricocheted, like flew for a little bit long, couldn't really fly, and just
And then crashed, huh?
crashed.
And I read that it was they said it was only like 10 to 15 feet long. Like it wasn't that big of a spacecraft, right?
Right.
That's what I kept seeing. Like it was only like 10 to 15 feet long, which is crazy.
The only thing is,
It's like this. That's like smaller than this room.
the only thing that like I think is a little just, I wish like people have scoured the sites trying to find like just like a little shred of anything.
But I'm sure the military, after they finally got there and like quarantined it off and like shut it down, I bet you they took everything. You know what I mean? Like
I'm sure, dude, but they just were so thorough that they just
yeah,
cleaned
they knew they
everything.
had to be. Yeah, I can totally agree with that.
So you don't think there's not one scrap left out there on the desert?
I doubt it, dude. I bet you they went and they found everything. I bet you they had lots of guys like looking, and they took everything they could. You know. Yeah, that's not hard to believe that people go back and can't find anything right now. I don't think that discredits anything at all.
No, it doesn't, because if it was a weather balloon, like they haven't found like sticks or like.
Yeah, it's crazy, dude.
I mean, there's some people that even theorize that technology really started going in the 50s. So they're wondering if it maybe off the spacecraft just a little bit that like technology really started ramping up.
Is what it seems. It seems like in order to travel space, in order to travel those kind of distances, you'd have to have some sort of like anti-gravity thing, right? Like that just is kind of what, you know.
Yeah.
Because otherwise it would take you light years. You know, you'd have to find a way to be able to travel faster than the speed of light.
Right.
And even then, it would take you forever because this shit's so far. Millions and millions and millions of miles.
I mean, I definitely, it's probably like some like wormhole thing.
Yeah, it's got to be some sort of like space-time thing, which gravity is. Like if you have an anti-gravity, that's distorting space-time. So that's a way to move very fast. Yeah, dude, it's so weird.
I think it's just it's one of the reason why this one's a smoking gun is because you have army officials coming out and saying these aren't like some Hobokins with cameras being like, oh, look what crashed over there.
Yeah, like, oh, I saw it. It was blah, blah, blah. No, these are like military officials
who came out after they retired from the military saying like, yeah, that picture wasn't. I feel bad for Colonel Blanchard. Like, you're basically like the joke. Like, they're basically saying like, yeah, you saw this. Like, you should have known
like,
when you saw it.
No, you dumbass. They made him look stupid that he couldn't figure out that was a weather
They
balloon.
reprimanded him. They even said in the reporters, like, I'm surprised that our intelligence officer couldn't identify what this is.
Yeah, it made him look like an idiot. But, you know, he probably should have gone to some higher up people and talked to them about it before he went and made the statement to the paper, though, right?
Right.
As from the military standpoint, right? So he deserved it.
He apparently also afterwards asked if he could see the real report, and the guy said, "No, it's top secret. You can't." And he was like, "I outrank you. Let me see the report." And he's like, "No, you have to talk to Washington about it."
So he got shut out, huh?
Yeah.
Pretty quick. Yeah. I mean, I would want to talk to that Brazel dude. You know, the guy who originally saw the first crash site, right? The guy who originally went to the paper and then all of a sudden recanted his story. Then all of a sudden got a brand new truck and moved out of town and started his own business.
They're all probably dead by now. It's 2000.
Yeah, because he was at least in his 30s or 40s at the time, right?
Yeah, so he was
30.
That'd be 1970. He's
He'd have to be
100,
like 100 right now. More than that even.
Yeah.
Because 1947, that's about 70 years from now, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
73 or 74 years from now. So even if you were so he's definitely dead by now. It'd be cool. Did he say anything on his deathbed? I mean, he kind of came out and said it was bullshit later. When he spoke to Friedman. Right. Like when he spoke to Friedman, he was basically like, it wasn't a weather balloon.
I mean, that's why this documentary's in the 80s, because most of the people were still alive in the 70s and 80s.
Yeah.
Could talk about it.
So they were all, and that's kind of around when they were all talking. Like,
now it'd all be hearsay. Now if you want to interview people, you're like, yeah, my grandmother saw it, like heard about this.
Because the report that Friedman did, that was 76, right?
78.
78. Okay, so it was right around that time. So that's when they made the documentary.
Yeah.
Surprised the government allowed them to make a documentary like that. But what are they going to do? They can't.
If they stop it, the producer could be like, yeah.
Yeah, if they stop it, that's even more suspicious.
You know what? I would like to see like a live action like sci-fi Roswell movie. I'm surprised they haven't made one.
Isn't there one?
Yeah,
what about
that one's
on
like
YouTube?
not really. That's like kind of like a. It's just basically like people in the room like talking about like, oh, when I went back, and it's like bits and pieces, but it's not really a movie.
Oh no, it's not.
It's like people just recounting their stories.
Oh really?
Yeah.
But it's like a movie though. It's not.
But it's not like live. They just like recount their stories.
It's just people.
And it's not like it's not like a free flowing story. Just like other people.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm surprised there isn't a movie about that. There should be. Yeah, I mean Roswell. It's a crazy incident. Like, I think it's pretty much proof that there's aliens out there and that they visited Earth. It's just that Coverup wasn't solid enough. There's no way. There's so many different witness accounts, so many different.
Why would you
things
urge? Why would the radio host urge like the governor called
the
saying,
FCC?
Yeah.
It was the FCC and a senator who called and said that you cannot air that story.
or we'll take your license privilege.
Yeah.
They were very threatening. Like, none of these
Yeah.
guys were like nice. Like, we can maybe do this. Or be like, no.
Oh yeah, they were very threatening. Like I said, the military basically came through and just threatened all the locals. Like and they ransacked their houses, dude. Like literally just went in their houses, threw shit around to find whatever they could because they wanted to find any material that anyone had possibly taken from the site.
And they gave out $10,000 rewards. I mean, at that
And he was
time-
allowed to use physical force. He was authorized to use physical force to keep this from getting out. To do the information blackout was what his job was to keep an information blackout, make sure people didn't talk about the craft or more importantly the alien bodies. So it's crazy, man. It's a crazy story, but we do have enough time here, I think, for maybe a quickie conspiracy, a little quickie thing, because one that I've always found kind of interesting, the Yuba County 5. You heard of that?
The boys from Yuba City.
Yeah, the boys from Yuba. It's a super interesting story. You know, we talked about Dyatlov's Pass.
And how bizarre that.
And how weird and crazy that situation was. And this is kind of like almost like an American version. It's not quite as crazy, but it's still very mysterious.
I think it's maybe a little more crazy, dude.
No, not quite as crazy, but it's
a little
more mysterious. Yeah, because I think we know even less about this situation than we do about Dyatlov's Pass. So, interesting situation here. So I think that we could do like maybe 15, 20 minutes on that to add into this episode here.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is in Yuba City, which is in California. And
you're going to quarantine yourself for 14 days after that cough, right?
Yeah, oh yeah. There's 5 kids. Not necessarily kids. They were between the ages of 24 and 32.
Nah, they're our age, bro.
They're adults, but
do you consider yourself still a kid, Evan?
No. But it was Gary, and Gary was in the Army for a while, but he was diagnosed with schizophrenia. That's why he was not in the Army anymore. He had like psychological issues. But apparently he was taking meds, and he was seeing a lot of success with those meds, and his condition wasn't really affecting him that much. And then there was 2 Jacks, Jack McDruga and Jack Wyatt, something else. I don't remember the other Jack's last name. But there was 2 Jacks. Both, pretty much everybody involved here, all 5 of them had learning disabilities, but they were all very high functioning.
But they're also learning so it's not like psychological
they're not like
problems.
mentally disabled. They just had some learning disabilities. They were just. One of the moms said that they were a little bit slow, which I feel like that's kind of mean. I don't know, but
that's I get that. Someone with like your reaction time might not be like, if I say something, you might take a little longer to digest what I'm saying to you than like the average person.
Yeah, but they weren't completely disabled. Like they were all like, Jack could still drive and like all that kind of stuff. So there was the 2 Jacks, Theodore, and then William. All right, so that was the 5. And they were all like basketball fans, and they went to go see a basketball game up at Cal State in Chico. And so they went to the basketball game, had a good time, left the game. On their way home, they stopped at this place called Bears Market. All right, and there's them on video of getting a bunch of snacks, and they were there at Bears Market. Just
the only last logical thing they
that was
did.
Their last pretty much known location. So, and also to note, they all played for a Special Olympics basketball team, and they had a game the next day. Like I said, they stopped at the gas station, got a bunch of food, and then no one ever heard from them
again. The next
didn't come home.
It, yeah.
Their parents were really worried because that is apparently not like them at all. They would always come home on time. They would always, pretty much be home after they were hanging out together. So the parents called in a missing persons report the next morning, and nothing ever, they never found them, never heard of them. But a dude named Joe Shanes, who was driving on the road that night. He was driving through this weird, like, mountainous area that was, like, far to the east of where they were supposedly at. Far east from where they were supposed to be going home. And this dude, Joe Shanes, he was driving through the mountains to kind of check out. He wanted to go camping with his family there the next week or something, so he was checking out a spot. And he was driving through, and his car got stuck on the mountain road. Because this was snow. Like, there was a lot of snow. I don't know if I mentioned that. This was like, apparently there was a big snowstorm happening. This is way up in the mountains where California, where apparently they get snow. I didn't know that.
There's great skiing in
I didn't
California.
realize California's got snow like that. I guess just up in the mountains because it's so high up.
No, if you go further from the coastline, it's a little colder, a little mountainous. There's some great skiing in California.
Interesting, man. I didn't even fucking know that shit. I didn't know California got snow like that.
There's
But
also some
anyway.
great skiing in New Mexico and Roswell. There's some great skiing there too.
Yeah, up in the mountains, though. It's
Yeah.
got to be in the mountains. That's
Yeah.
why. That makes sense. Okay, so it was a big snowstorm, and Joe's car gets stuck. And he gets out to try and push his car, and dude starts having a heart attack. Man, bad time to have a heart attack, dude. Way out in the middle of nowhere in mountainous roads during a snowstorm.
Yeah, you don't just have a cell phone too.
Yeah, dude starts having a heart attack. Yeah, this was back in the day. I forgot to mention, what year was this?
76.
Was it? I thought it was way before that. No, it was 70s. All right.
We still didn't have cell phones back then.
No, they did not. So Joe starts having a heart attack. He starts freaking out. He starts his car is stuck. He can't get it out. So he's basically just decides to start walking down the road to try and get to the nearest, like, person to get to help or something,
Yeah,
which
exactly.
they said it was probably like miles and miles away. Sucks.
Oh, really?
So he starts walking, and as he's walking, he passes a group of people, and it was the 5 dudes, which he believed was these 5 kids, and then there was also, I keep saying kids, these 5 adults, the Yuba 5. He passed them, and then he also, apparently there was a woman with a baby with them. All right, which is strange.
That's interesting.
But apparently, like, they were a little bit further away from him, and he was trying to call for help, and they were basically just kind of ignoring him. So, like, something was going on, you know.
Why are they ignoring?
They just ignored him, I guess. They didn't really go more into that. I don't know what that means, because, like, if I was having a heart attack, I would be not allow myself to be ignored. I'd be like, yo, I'm having a fucking heart attack. Can someone, like, help me here or figure something out? Or
maybe they'll be like, sure.
maybe, I don't know. But anyway, and when he came and reported that story, or no, he was also walking down, and then he kept walking down the road. He walked past them, and apparently he walked past the car, Jack's car. But the car was empty. That none of them were in it. So he reports this to the police the next day. And so the police go up and they find the car empty out on this, like, mountainous road, which was way out of the way from where they should have been going, basically on their route home. This was not anywhere near their route home. So there's no reason they should have been here. That's one mystery right there.
Yeah.
The car was not stuck. All right. So they voluntarily got out of the car. It wasn't stuck. It still had a quarter tank of gas. So it wasn't stalled. When they hotwired it started immediately. So there wasn't anything like the car broke.
So they wouldn't have been panicked and, like,
Yeah, there's no reason for them to. It wasn't a car issue, basically, is what that rules out. And that, that was really all they could. There was really not much for them to find there. There was no evidence. Like they said that it looked like there was no struggle in the car, nothing like that. They found, like, all their food wrappers and stuff. They were just chilling there. I don't think that they found any, like, trails, footprints or anything because of the snow. Like, it was just constantly snowing that night or something like that. So it's like, damn, there wasn't really anything, no trace, Everyone was just gone, missing. So it was crazy. They didn't really know what to do. There was nothing for them to do. Kids were just completely disappeared. So then 4 months later, a group of motorcyclists was, like, riding through the mountains, and they come across a trailer that's like out in that area. And they said that there was a horrible smell coming from the trailer. And they were like, what the fuck? So they like go to check it out, and they find Ted's body in the trailer.
Ooh.
All right. Now, his shoes were missing, which is weird. Never found the shoes. But there was a bunch of like, there was like valuable stuff there, like his watch and his wallet and stuff like that were all still there. So it wasn't like he didn't get robbed or anything. Turns out, based on like his beard growth, they think that he was alive in the trailer for like, what was it? Between 8 and 13 weeks.
That's like 2 to 3 months.
That's a long time. That's
Yeah.
2 to 3 months.
Shit.
And apparently, like, there was a whole, like, locker there that was full of food that they could have all survived on for, like, a year or something like that. It was just a ton of food. He never found it. But he did find a bunch of, like, what is it, like, sardines or something, like, cans or whatever that he had eaten. It's kind of weird, man. And he never tried to make a fire. There was also, like, propane tank that was like on the property outside that if he would have just turned that on, he could have had heat, which is weird. And then which was strange, you know, and he had lost like 100 pounds.
Yeah, how did you get
So
to that
they
trailer?
think that they don't know how he got there, you know, he was dead, he couldn't explain it. Apparently he broke in through a window is how he actually got inside, but
I wonder how they found the trailer. Was he just like looking for something? Did he know? Were they ordered to go there? Did they like?
I mean, the real question is why the fuck were they even there? Why did they leave the car? You know what I mean? Like this, it's so strange. But let me continue here, because after finding that, they started searching around that area and started searching more, and they ended up finding Jack and William. I think it was like a couple miles away from the trailer. They found Jack and William's bodies. Now, Jack was kind of like partially eaten by animals, and William was like almost completely eaten by animals. Like his body was found like scattered along like a 50-foot area, basically. And then later they started looking around the area more, and then about another like 300 or 400 yards, I think, from that area, the other Jack Madruger, they found his skull and his backbone.
Damn.
Rough. So that's 4 out of the 5. The last one was Gary, and Gary was never found. No remains or anything was ever found of Gary's.
Except the tennis shoes.
Except, yeah, they found the shoes and a flashlight.
Strange.
So that's the story, man. It's weird. Like, you know, no one knows. There's so many questions, just so many questions. Like, why were they even driving down that road? It was not on their way home. It had no, and it was like a good, like, I think they said they were a good, like, 10 miles off of, like, their path. They had obviously, like, decided they were going that way. So, like.
So maybe they did stock up on snacks knowing they were going to go for, like, a trip.
Yeah, man, but why? They had the basketball game the next day. Like, they were all coming back. They were just coming home from a basketball game. They weren't like.
Well, I think also
why
on
would
the
you just
accounts,
decide?
The old guy was having a heart attack. Said there was also a pickup truck, and the lights didn't.
Yeah, that's right. He did say he saw a pickup truck as well as he was walking.
So
nobody stopped to help him, and he just accepted that. I can't believe that.
Right.
Again, if I'm having a heart attack, like, and I came by a truck or a car or something, like, I'm gonna make sure
I don't
that I
even
get
know
help
what a
from
heart
it.
attack would like.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think a heart attack is as crazy as people make it out to be. I think it's just when your heart starts like having trouble pumping blood.
Oh, okay.
But for the most part, it's going to be it's painful, and you go to the hospital, and it like there's different degrees of heart attacks where like you can just be fine. Obviously, this guy survived. He had a heart, you know, he walked really fucking far. I think they said he walked like 8 miles to get to help.
Damn.
While having a heart attack. Yeah, anyway. Why were they going down the goddamn?
Why are they ignoring?
Why were they out there?
Why are
Why'd they
they
get out of the car?
ignoring him? So, one of the theories that immediately comes to mind is they were being followed or something had something against them, and
Yeah,
they were followed and they tried to get rid of them, and they just like at the end they got caught in the
tried to
snowbank
bail out.
and just bailed. They just bailed.
But what would be like that? Like I don't understand. Like
I don't know. Maybe somebody has a problem with you. You don't know. Like I would bail. Like if
these were
someone
all
tried.
like apparently these were all kind of like homebody kids. Everybody, you know what I mean? Like they didn't know a bunch of people from what they were saying. Like they kind of just kept to themselves. They were a close group of friends type of thing. So why would they have beef with anybody? You know, which is weird. And then another theory I've heard is that like the woman with the baby that the guy saw when he was walking by and he saw them walking, that could have been some sort of con where like they were trying to get them to like help them and then end up like robbing them or something like that. Like that's a theory where like there's a con going where there's like a woman and a child and she says like, oh my God, I need help me type of thing. Like, can you drive me home or something like that? And then they went to go drive her home and then they get robbed. And then maybe like they like ditch the car.
That's
like,
actually probably the most plausible
ditch the
explanation.
car and stuff like that. But obviously something happened and they got away, I guess, or tried to run away and then they get lost in the woods is what the one theory is. But there's no the only evidence of the lady with the baby is
His description.
Joe Joe who saw her while he was having a heart attack. So you don't necessarily know, but like I said, it seemed like it was obviously a mild heart attack. So I don't think I think I'd believe him on that. I don't think he'd have any reason to be.
The thing that's odd is why are they just all ignoring him?
Yeah, exactly. That kind of leads to
too.
maybe they were like something was going on, and they, you know what I mean. Someone, if you're in the middle of a con robbing someone, you're not gonna like help somebody else out with a heart attack.
I know,
So
but
maybe
like,
they were just like.
but like, they're the five. Why weren't the guy saying anything? If it was a robbery.
What guy?
Because if it was part of it, if it was a con, right? Mm-hmm. And he was walking by saying help, 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 help. Why wouldn't the people like that are getting conned say something?
I don't know. Maybe they had a.
I guess they can't really help him
Maybe
because he
the
needs
people-
your help and you need help.
Yeah, well, yeah, right. Two people that need help, not gonna be able to help each other. But like, what about probably like the people that are running the con? They probably have guns or something. They were like, don't just ignore this guy. You know what I mean? Like they'd be like, just shut the fuck up. Don't talk to this guy. Just ignore him. You know. Mm-hmm. So they did and then tried to run away, and got lost and shit. The tragic part is the one kid that was in, the one dude that was in the trailer that apparently was there for 2 to 3 months in this trailer out in the middle of nowhere.
Why wouldn't
eating
you have
sardines.
tried?
Why wouldn't you have at least checked for food? Like apparently there was a locker full of food right there.
Why wouldn't you have at least tried to walk back to
Within
the car?
2 to 3 months? Yeah, you didn't. You just stayed there. I don't know, man.
Maybe
It's
there
weird.
was fear. Maybe like he was afraid of like
He had some food.
No, maybe there was fear that like
Fear.
of fire or like making too much disturbance.
Yeah, they were
that-
saying they didn't try and make a fire or anything at all, and that is weird. And maybe like they were running from something or like trying to hide from something. So fire, like that's the only reason they wouldn't make a fire.
Right, I can see that a con going wrong and they just run into the woods. You find this abandoned trailer and you just try to hide. But I feel like
But after months,
dude, I feel like after a couple days, you'd be like, okay,
you'd be
you're
like,
good.
okay, let's figure this out. Let's get, you know what I mean?
Like I would maybe like keep quiet for 2 to 3 days, but after that, like I'd feel like, all right, let's figure out. What
After that, I'd be
fuck.
like, all right, I think that the
God,
coast
yeah.
is clear. I could probably try and get out of here now. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I know, man. It's a weird situation. It's crazy.
strange, but like I think those are like this. Either like they had to bail and just run out,
Yeah.
or maybe they just wanted to like fucking live out on a cabin. Maybe they're just like, just live in this cabin for a little bit.
I don't know, man. I don't know if I buy that. I don't buy that at all because they had the basketball game the next day and everyone who knew them was like, they were all about this basketball game. They were super excited. They
Why-
wouldn't miss it.
Do you think they found the cabin by accident, or do you think?
I mean, only one of them found the cabin, right?
Well, how do we know the others weren't there before?
I don't think there's any evidence of anyone else being there.
Oh, it was just him and the other guy's tennis shoes, so he could have been there. The guy that they couldn't find.
Maybe. I mean, they may have all been there at one point. No, they don't really know that. Weird, man. It's a weird situation. Weird situation. It is pretty similar to Diatlov's past, you know?
Yeah. Except the motives here, you just have no idea.
Yeah. With Diatlov's past, it's like, okay, it was definitely a Yeti. With this, it's like...
I mean, has someone brought up the Yeti theory yet on this one? Maybe a Yeti came out at the car and they just like all just...
Dude, that's probably what it was. It was a
would
Yeti.
make so much sense.
Bigfoot. Dude, it was Bigfoot. We just solved it.
Yeah.
Yeah, we should call them up. Like, listen, guys, we figured it out. It was Bigfoot.
Here's the evidence. It would make a big scary noise.
Here's the evidence. No one said it wasn't Bigfoot. So, I mean, that's pretty much evidence.
all right, let's go. That's what it might have been UFOs then.
People think they've seen Bigfoot, so there it is. Yeah, it's a crazy one. You know, again, I wish we could. We'll know, but we'll probably never know. But yeah. So I think that's good for this episode. I think the Roswell thing is just super crazy. Like, it just.
Yeah.
So many corroborated stories, so much high level military guys just talking about
It's very
this
interesting.
happened.
Yeah.
You know, it's hard to deny. It's hard to just say it was a cover up at this point. It's like it's basically the holy grail of like alien conspiracy theories.
I think it has the most evidence because like you're talking
For
about
sure.
military officials knowing all this stuff.
Yeah. So that's really interesting, and I wish we could figure out more about that. Maybe one day we will. A lot of people think that JFK was gonna say something about that.
Really?
That's what. Yeah, some people think that like he at some point was gonna say something. Or
I remember Bill Clinton one of his first questions in the Oval Office when he became president was, "Did we recover alien bodies at Roswell?" And he had a team
answer it, though, right?
into it. He had a team look into it, and they couldn't figure much out. A lot of the stuff they were not able to access, which means like who's able to access it? If the
Wow.
president of the United States can't access it.
wow, it's crazy. It's a crazy conspiracy, but yeah. So next time, what should our next topic be? I wonder. We'll see. We'll figure it out. But
If we both don't have cabin fever yet.
yeah, dude. This is like day 3 for me of like quarantine, not going to work anymore. It fucking sucks. Shit's crazy.
Day
3, dude, and we've got another possible 3 to 4 weeks of this. So buckle up.
I read somewhere June 10th. So
Oh my god, no sports, man, no nothing. But all right, yeah. Thank you guys for listening to another episode of Mystery Bros. We're gonna be bringing this to you very soon.
Right.
We're gonna be dropping it real soon, and maybe something for you to do in this quarantine. If you don't want to jump out a window yet, you can listen to some Mystery Bros, listen to some conspiracies, and dig deep and figure some shit out.
yeah.
So
Let us
yeah.
know in the comment section below.
Yeah, whatever. Just thank you guys for listening, and peace out.
Peace.
Mystery Brothers.
Mystery Brothers.
Mystery Bros.
Mystery Brothers.
Mystery Bros. Mystery Bros. Mystery Bros.